night the sky tore open. A pale light spilled across the northern valley, washing the land in a cold hue that felt neither moonlight nor dawn, but something older. In the forgotten country of Eldreth, where maps ended and legends began, there stood a forest no man claimed and no animal entered willingly. The locals called it the Forest of Bones, for its trees grew pale and hollow, and when the wind passed through, it carried a sound like the whisper of 1,000 buried souls. No one remembered who first gave it that name, yet every villager of the nearby town of Wern knew that those who entered never returned whole, if they returned at all. For centuries, stories lingered of ancient kings who hid their sins beneath those twisted roots, of priests who buried forbidden relics there, and of a queen who wandered into its heart seeking her dead child. But the truth, as always, was far worse than myth. On the eve of the winter solstice, a young scholar named Arlen arrived in Wern with a weathered journal and a heart too curious for his own good. He was not a warrior or a hunter, but a man of knowledge, drawn to the unknown like a moth to flame. His obsession began when he found a single entry in an old monastery record. The bones remember. The forest watches. That phrase had lived in his mind for years, haunting his dreams until he could no longer resist its call. The villagers warned him, do not enter at dusk, do not follow the whispers, and above all, do not look at the trees when they move. Arlen laughed it off as superstition, yet deep inside, he felt a chill even the fire in his room could not chase away. At dawn he set out with a lantern, his satchel filled with ink, parchment, and bread. The path into the forest began as any other, soft earth covered in frost and leaves. But after the first mile, the world changed. The trees grew unnaturally close, their bark white as bone, their branches long and skeletal. The air thickened, the light dimmed, and sound itself seemed to fade. Even his own footsteps felt distant, muffled. Strange symbols were carved into the trunks, spirals, runes, and faces frozen mid-scream. At first, Arlen thought they were markings of a forgotten tribe, but when he touched one, it felt warm, pulsing faintly, like something alive beneath the bark. He pulled his hand away, heart pounding, and the forest exhaled, a slow, deep sigh that stirred the dead leaves. Somewhere far off, he heard a bell ring once, low and hollow. He turned, but the path behind him was gone, replaced by more trees. The forest had swallowed him whole. Hours turned into something else. Time bent in strange ways there. The sun no longer moved, and his lantern flame refused to die, though its oil should have long since burned out. Shadows slithered along the ground, stretching against the wind. He began to hear whispers, not words, but soft murmurs like prayers spoken underwater. Arlen tried to focus on his journal, recording every strange thing he saw. The trees that bled black sap, the roots that moved like veins, the shapes that watched him from the mist. But when he looked back at his writing, he found words he did not remember writing. We see you. He remembers. Follow the marrow. His hands trembled. He dropped the journal, but when he bent to pick it up, there were 3 shadows instead of one. One was his own. The others stood just behind him. He ran. Branches clawed his face. His breath turned to frost. The forest seemed endless, the same trees repeating like a dream that refused to end. And then through the fog he saw it, a clearing where the ground was white, not from snow, but from bones. Thousands of them, human, animal, and things he could not name, all woven into the soil. At the center stood a single massive tree, its roots tangled around a mound of skulls. Its trunk was split open, hollow and dark, like a wound that never healed. Something moved inside. Arlen stepped closer despite every instinct screaming to flee. Inside the hollow trunk, he saw a shape curled in the dark, a woman pale as moonlight, her hair tangled with vines. Her eyes opened slowly, black and endless, reflecting not him, but 1,000 other faces, all screaming silently. You came, she whispered, her voice like the wind through dead leaves. We've been waiting. Arlen stumbled back, but the ground shifted beneath him. The bones moved, rearranging, forming words in the dirt. Feed the roots. The woman smiled, revealing teeth like broken glass. The forest began to move. Every tree leaned inward, branches creaking, roots writhing like serpents. Faces appeared in the bark, men, women, children, all whispering his name. Arlen, Arlen, Arlen. His lantern shattered. Darkness flooded him, and in that moment he understood the truth. The forest was not haunted, it was alive. Every soul who had entered had been absorbed, their bones feeding the roots, their minds bound to the will of whatever ancient hunger lived beneath the earth. He tried to run, but his legs felt heavy. The air turned thick, metallic, smelling of rot and blood. The whispers grew louder, clearer. Join us. The roots burst from the ground, wrapping around his ankles, his wrists, his throat. He screamed, but the forest swallowed the sound. His body was pulled into the earth, his skin turning pale, his veins black. The last thing he saw was the woman's face bending down toward his, her lips cold against his ear. "The bones remember," she whispered, "and now so will you." When dawn came, the forest was still again. Only one new tree stood in the clearing, its bark pale, its roots glistening red. Years later, travelers passing near Warren spoke of a strange light deep within the forest, and sometimes, if the wind was right, they swore they could hear a voice calling softly, as if carried from the earth itself. Write it down. A young girl once claimed she saw a man standing among the trees, holding a lantern that burned without flame. His eyes were hollow, his skin white as ash, but in his hand, he carried a journal that bled ink. When asked what he said, the girl only whispered, trembling, "He said the forest is hungry." And so the forest of bones remains older than memory, waiting for the curious, the lost, and the foolish who believe that knowledge has no price. For those who listen long enough will hear it, the creak of bone, the sigh of the earth, and the soft, patient whisper, "We see you."